And I'm still standing better than I ever did. Right. Hello everyone, Clark the Geek here. Welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing we're revisiting an old series of mine that I did last year, which is the top best and worst stories of each Doctor. So if you remember last year I did like the top 3 best or the top 5 best of which Doctors did I do? I did the 7th Doctor, the 10th Doctor, I remember I did his worst stories, the 12th Doctor and the 5th Doctor. Now we're going to go back to the 60s and do the 1st Doctor, William Hartnell. Now the 1st Doctor is one of my favourite, his era is a brilliant era and he's a great Doctor. And you know, obviously he's the one that started it all, the original. And when I watch his era, it's really magical because it's so old, but it's so interesting watching. I don't know, it's really hard to describe. It's just a really great era, and we're going to be covering the very best of that era. Let's get to it. Number 3, The Keys of Marinus. So kicking off the list, we have The Keys of Marinus, one of the first Doctor stories ever made. It was like the 5th ever Doctor story. This story is just so much fun. It's a proper like pulp sci-fi 60s quest adventure, and I love quest style stories. You know, stories like the Keys of Time arc in the Tom Baker era. It's that proper sense of adventure that you get in the early years of Doctor Who, and it's so much fun. This story. This story is written by Terry Nation, who also wrote the Dalek stories, but this is also another really good creation from Terry Nation. Hey, that rhymed. But yeah, it's a really cool world that he's made, and each part is set in a different location, which keeps it fresh and doesn't keep it boring. Because even though it is 6 parts, you can watch it all in one go and not really get bored. Because, you know, you start off with the stuff with the Vord, who are a really cool monster in, like, part 1. Then you've got, like, the city, then you go to the jungle, then the mountains. Then in the later parts, it's like a whodunit mystery. It keeps things fresh and exciting. And that's a hallmark of a great Doctor Who story. As I said, the Vord are a really cool villain. And it's just such a fun story. And I have a blast watching it. I mean, I watched it quite recently, and I really enjoyed it. Number 2, The Aztecs. So yeah, second place is The Aztecs. I think this story directly follows on from Keys of Marinus, so that's pretty cool. Now, The Aztecs is a pure historical story, and it's probably my favourite of the pure historicals, like when there's no alien threat, just the Doctor and the TARDIS crew land in a historical setting, and it's probably my favourite of those. It's just a brilliantly written story. It's the first sort of story in Doctor Who which really covers the dangers of time travel. You know, with the iconic quote, "You can't rewrite history, not one line." It properly shows that you can't meddle with history like this. And the Doctor's really good in this story. I'd also probably say this is Barbara's best story as a companion. You know, she's mistaken for a goddess, and she tries to fix things, she tries to make things more peaceful, and it's really good for her character. Yeah, some of the fight scenes aren't that good, like they do look quite choreographed, but it's always been one that I've loved. I mean, this is one of the first Hartnells I remember watching, and I thought it was a great historical, you know, and I did learn a fair bit from it. I mean, the historicals back in the day were meant to be more educational, and you can see it in the Aztecs. I did learn a bit about the Aztec culture and stuff like that. It was really cool. It was a really good story. Number 1, The War Machines. And coming in as my favourite Hartnell story, we have The War Machines, which is one of his last stories as well. I mean, those 2 stories we covered there's some of his first, this is one of his last. And my god, it's brilliant. Now, this story is mainly sort of about, like, computers gone wrong or artificial intelligence, and if you like that stuff, you'll love The War Machines. It's also the first sort of modern day story, like contemporary Earth story, where the Doctor lands in present day and has to defeat some kind of menace on Earth. And, you know, this is the format that the John Pertwee eras would use, and, you know, the unit stuff, and if it wasn't for this, we wouldn't have, like, stuff like Unit or the Brigadier. So this story is very influential in Doctor Who, because it's the first one that did it. I need to stress it's not Unit in this story. Unit isn't in this story, but it's the whole feel of it feels like a John Pertwee story. So as I said, it's about like computers going wrong. This computer, Wotan, is controlling people to build these war machines, which I think look pretty cool, to be honest. I mean, I know it was the 60s, but they to be fair, I think they look quite cool. And they're going to decimate the humans. I think they're really cool. The Doctor, William Hartnell, this is probably William Hartnell's one of his best performances. There's some great lines that he gets, like when he first lands, he says he feels the presence of something evil that he hadn't felt since the Daleks. That's a great line. And one of the cliffhangers, I think it's the cliffhangers part 3, where all the soldiers are running back, but Hartnell, he's just standing there. It's just amazing. He's just standing at the war machine. He's like, come at me, bro. It's amazing. Not word for word like that, but close enough. It's also the introduction of Ben and Polly as companions, and I quite like them. I think they're pretty good companions, and they get a first good outing in this one. Thankfully, this is Dodo's last story, because Dodo is quite frankly the most pointless Doctor Who companion ever. But overall, I just think it's a brilliant story. It's paced so well. There's some great action scenes, great ideas, great characters. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant story. So that's another video. I hope you enjoyed it. What are your favourite Heart stories? What do you think of those stories I mentioned there? Let me know in the comments below. I love the Heart era, you know, and I think those 3 stories are quite, you know, they do represent what Doctor Who's meant to be. You know, one historical, one modern day, one sort of sci-fi space adventure. And yeah, it just shows that this is what the Heart era was doing. It was setting up all these different formulas and ideas that Doctor Who would go on to do in the future, and that's why it's such a great era, because of how influential it was. And if it didn't work, we would not have Doctor Who today. So remember to like, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell so you don't miss a thing, and it's Clack of the Geek signing out. It's far from being all over.